Hi everybody, this is Alma coming to you from Long Beach, California. Today is Saturday, July 11th of the year 2020, and this is FlossTube number 28. So welcome to you all, to my little corner here in the YouTube universe. Welcome back to all of you that have been following me on my journey thus far, and welcome to you new viewers. I hope that you like what you see and you find a reason to stay and subscribe and continue to follow me on my stitching journey. This channel, for those of you that are just dropping by for the first time, this channel is mostly about cross stitching. I do a lot of fantasy pieces, I do a lot of full coverage pieces, but I am trying to broaden my horizons, which I'll talk about in a second. I tend to have plans. I'm mostly a process stitcher, but I do like to have some sort of goal to shoot for. So I mean, I suppose it still counts as process, right? It's a kind of process. But I mean, obviously there's nothing like getting a finish, right? This month really, for July, I am doing things a little bit differently. The Facebook group Full Coverage Fanatics is doing a bingo game this month, where, I mean, as with any bingo board, there's 25 spaces with a free space in the middle. Each space has a different prompt or different theme, and one is supposed to stitch on a cross stitch piece, full coverage, that is related to that prompt, to that theme. So I usually do stitching challenges with magical stitches and enchanted stitching challenges, which are two other Facebook groups. There's also the Stitchy Quest to destroy the One Ring, which is a challenge group that is obviously Lord of the Rings themed, even though right now we're doing The Hobbit. Those challenges tend to be, you know, each prompt tends to be like 300 stitches, 400 stitches, depending on the week. So this month I've decided that in order to go ahead and try to catch up with some of my whips, I'll go ahead and focus more on the July bingo than anything else. So if you did see my last video, then you'll know that I started one of the prompts that I showed you, but I needed to finish it over the weekend. So that's the first thing that I focused on. Oh, and I'll show you the product image on the chart. This is Heaven and Earth Designs Mini Midnight Stroll. The artist is Julie Fain, and she does a lot of these kinds of patterns, a lot of, you know, silhouettes up against the moon. I've seen one that's a hummingbird against the moon, and several different fairies. So you know, that's pretty much her aesthetic, and I love this because of the colors. I'm a sucker for purple. So I don't remember where I was. I just remember that I started it when I showed it to you last week, but I did go ahead and finish that 1,000 stitches for the space, which pretty much meant that I worked I worked on the second purple, which you can't really, I mean, you can see it here. So all of this is just one color. This pattern does lend itself to working color by color, so I'm trying to work it that way. But yeah, the first color was just this 939, and now I'm finally getting around to the purples. There's not much black in this, surprisingly enough. It's mostly 939, which, I mean, is, you know, really dark blue, so it's the same practically. But I did go ahead and finish the 1,000 stitches for that prompt. After that, that was pretty much, that took the rest of the weekend. So after that, I did want to go ahead and focus on my hardcover patterns, since during the week I don't really have access to my electronic patterns. I went ahead and just focused on my main focus, which is my Peter Pan whip. That's my oldest whip, and as you saw a couple of weeks ago, I was very close to finishing. So I'm very, very happy to report that I gotta finish. So here we go. This took me, well, I've had this whip for 7 years, but I didn't stitch on it for a long time. I'm guessing it probably took me closer to 2 years to finish. But again, I put it away for a long time, and then even after I picked it back up, it still was difficult to work with, so I didn't work on it that much. But yeah, this week was all about details. I mean, I did finish stitching the kids, but mostly I focused on the detailing. So let's just do a walkthrough, shall we? And if you do follow me on Instagram, then you'll have seen the close-up pics, because I did want to go ahead. I mean, I posted the finished image, but I mean, that doesn't do it justice. So Big Ben was, I think, the most detailed thing in the entire piece. I don't know if it will be easy to tell or not, but there's a lot of dark blue lines going around, or going down, and that's to give the roof the texture. I mean, it worked. It looks really cool. It was really tedious to work on though, because even though the kit came with 18 count data, and this goes just for the stitching as well, because this thing is loaded with quarter stitches and 3/4 stitches. It has a lot of partial stitches, and the detailing was no different. A lot of the detailing had me splitting the Ada, like it had you ending and starting lines mid stitch. So if I would have known that, like if knowing what I know now, I probably would have just picked a different fabric and not necessarily used the fabric that it came from. But I started this in 2013. I didn't know any better. But yeah, so we have the lines here in the roof to give it that, or tile, I don't know, that texture. There was a lot of detail. There was a lot of French knots. I don't know why, but they must love their French knots over at MCG. I used to, because this is out of print, but still. There was a line coming up here. The pattern called for a line going across here, but since I had already backstitched these borders, I don't know, I just felt it was kind of redundant. I thought I was, even looking at the model stitch, it looked too busy, so I decided to not but I did do, I don't know if you can see, but there's a line going down to of French knots, but it's up against light blue, so you can't really tell. And then you have the clock face, which was also an experience. The chart had an arrow for the small hand, but for whatever reason there was no arrow for the hour hand, or the minute hand. Hour, minute, yes. So as I was adding on the details, I just went ahead and did like a makeshift arrow at the top. It's not perfect, but it does the job. I just didn't I didn't realize it until it was too late. Like I had already stitched all the blue here. It's a really light blue for the face. So I didn't realize it until that was done. So that left just adding it with backstitching. And then obviously there's a lot of little sparkles added because of Tinkerbell's fairy dust, and that's just all over the place. London itself was also very detailed. I had to outline a ton of the houses or the buildings, the boats here that are docked, and this one that's out in the middle of the water, and the bridge. And then of course you have the children, Wendy, John, and Michael. I had to, you know, I didn't like the mock-up or the model stitch. It looked, I don't know, it looked a little deformed, to be honest. I wasn't exactly happy with how it was charted. So I kind of went freehand a little bit and just did it myself. And I'm talking about the faces, her face specifically. I just decided to kind of ballpark it, see what looked nice. So I'm happy with the results. You know, there's only so much you can do when there was no stitching on the face. Same thing with John. With John, the only thing he got was his eyes, which I thought was, I was cracking up while I was stitching that. Like, it just looks so weird. It's like they have you stitch two white stitches for the glasses, and then they have you outline the glasses, but then they also have you do a French knot for the actual eyes. So, I mean, he looks fine. The hat, the white stripe on the hat, it's charted as red, but I don't know, I didn't like it too much in red, so I just did it white. I can't remember what it is in the movie. But for Michael, and by the way, this is supposed to be his teddy bear. It's just like this brown blob over here. But that's supposed to be a teddy bear. For Michael, they had you do, let me see, do I have the, yes, I have the floss here. I was in the middle of putting everything away before I decided I needed to film. They had you do his pajamas in like this really dark pink, which I'm like, I get it's nighttime and colors are going to be darker, but I mean Wendy's dress was still pretty much a very light blue, so you know, it was bugging me, so I just decided to go ahead and use one of these pink shades for his pajamas, so that it could be closer to how it is in the movie. And I think it looks fine. I'm happy with it. But yeah, that was pretty much, this is what I did in 3 days. Again, finished stitching up the water, the kids, and then the detailing. The detailing took a long time, and it was just one of those things. Like I was talking to a stitcher friend of mine, Gina. Like it just keeps adding, like it just keeps piling up. Like I remember I was working on the detailing and thinking, okay, it's fine, I just need to work on, you know, I just need to do the roof on Big Ben. And it's like, no, just kidding, you still have a ton of French knots to do. It's like, okay, fine, I'll just do the French knots. And it's like, ha, you forgot about the clock face, you have to stitch the clock. You know, it kept, every time I thought I was getting close to finishing, something always popped up. Like, oh, you forgot to outline the ships, you know, the boats on the dock. Like these right here. Teeny tiny, but they're there. So I remember thinking at one point, like, it just doesn't end. And then once I actually finished, I remember just going through everything. So I'm like, okay, am I really finished now? Because it was just one of those things. Like, there was just no end to the details. But here we go. Ta-da! We have a finish. Finally. and I did add my signature. Teeny tiny, but it's here. AV 20 for 2020. I'm really happy. I do have one of the vignettes. I have the Fantasia vignette, which is Sorcerer Mickey. But I don't know when I'll start it. I feel like I need to take a break from those kits for a little bit. But I may start it towards the end of the year. Next year, and I may have mentioned this or not, but next year will be no new starts 2021. At least that's the plan. So that's also why I don't mind starting a lot of things at the moment, is because I'm getting ready to not start things next year and give myself plenty to do. But anyway, so that was my big finish. That was my big accomplishment of the week. Once I did that, I went back to the bingo, to the full coverage bingo, and did 2 more spaces, and I'm working on another 3rd. So so I have accomplished a bingo. Like I did get, I can go ahead and show you because I have it right here. I did get the bingo because I did 5 in a row, and I'm working on a 6th space right now. But so the next space that I worked on was one that had to do with the beach. So it has to have the beach somewhere in there, and for that, I mean, you kind of saw it already. Spoiler alert. But for that, I did work on my mini 1 chart, which is by Zindi Nielsen, and it's a Heaven Earth Designs chart. I started this in August of 2018. So since I finished Peter Pan, the next oldest whip is Harry Potter, my Hogwarts Castle, which I started in June of 2018. And then this chart I started in August of 2018. So 1,000 stitches on that was done on this part. I'm trying to fold it so I can hold it. Fold it so I can hold it better. And I'm failing miserably. It's a big piece. Didn't realize how big, and it's supposed to be a mini, but I guess that's what happens when you do it on 18 count. It still ends up being super big. But I pretty much I try to work on this general area still. I feel this is just one of those charts where I can't tell, but I can tell, but I can't tell how much I've done on it. I know that I worked over here on the bottom and then started filling in a lot of the spaces here. The page break is somewhere along here too, so actually false, it's like down here, it's in the middle still, because I remember I'm still working my way down to it. But you can tell that this right here is the head. So, and you know, the hair, like I've already started stitching on her hair, and that's just because as I was filling in on this part right here, I had leftover floss, so I just decided to go ahead and finish that length, and that gave me those darker colors for her hair. But yeah, I'm very excited because, you know, I'm finally getting something. There's like, it's taking shape. The goal for this piece for this year is to hit 25K, and once I finish the 1,000 stitches, I just got past 24,000. So I'm gonna go ahead and use this for we have a free space. I'm like just gonna go ahead and put things down, Alma. There's a Stitcher's Choice space, which means you can stitch on anything you want for 1,000 stitches. So I'm gonna go ahead and work on this one for that space, so that I can go ahead and tick off that yearly goal for this one. And yeah, Pattern Keeper definitely makes it easier to work on because it was a lot of the same symbols. But this is also, I don't know, maybe, because this is also less than 50 colors. There's a space that we have for less than 50 colors. So I'll do one or the other. I'll see. I'll see what I can do. Once I finish that one, the next space I finished was for a design, a pattern whose name or the designer name started with the letters in July, July. So for that one, I went the easy route and just stitched on July, because why not? This is by Anna Dittman. The artwork is by Anna Dittman. The chart is obviously Heaven in Her Designs, and it's still not much to look at. Can you see? It's still white. It's all the white. Everything is white. I did start adding some other colors. There's like a really, really light pink, which is one of the new DMC, and then there's a really light tan in there as well. And this is Needle Minder by Magpie's Minders. But yeah, I did 1,000 stitches, whether it looks like it or not. Again, it was pretty much all white. I was dying. I mean, it was a quick stitch. It was a really quick stitch because it was just one color, you know, with a little bit of exceptions here and there. But yeah, by the time I was finished with it, I was so ready for something different. And I've actually found that I like working this way. Sorry for the crinkly. I'm trying to get this back in. There we go. I found that I actually do like working this way, and I have kind of discovered that back in Mania, where I chose 5 whips and focused on those. So instead of working on you know, stitch prompts or magical stitches or enchanted stitching, I'm also a member of the Stitchy Quest to Destroy the One Ring. Those are all stitching challenge groups. Their prompts can be, you know, stitch 300 stitches on this, stitch 400 stitches on this. Enchanted Stitching does 250. So I decided to just try to go for larger stitch counts so I can go ahead and make progress, because I did fall behind during Mania, because obviously since I only focused on 5 projects, I neglected like 20 of them. So I found that I do like working on those large stitch counts to get myself a lot more progress. The next space I'm working on, the 6th one, is I'm doing it with Tilton Crafts Wonder Woman Warrior Princess. The artwork is by Daniel Kordek. The space I'm using her for is for holiday. I don't have any holiday themed pieces, not full coverage at least. I do have one that's by Yanni Stitcher. I started her Katrina, which is obviously, not obviously, but it revolves around Day of the Dead. But that's not full coverage, so I couldn't use it for the purposes of this challenge. So this is right. So yeah, this is right. I think I have like 1,500 stitches done. I still have to do the last 500. Because that was the other thing is, if you don't have something that's related to whatever the prompt is on the space, you have to do penalty stitches. You have to do twice the amount of stitches. So again, I think I'm at 1,500 some. So I'll go ahead and finish this space today. And yeah, don't think I'll be able to do much of anything else. I'm going to be heading over to my parents tomorrow. I do have to do some house chores, first of all, adulting, but yeah, I do have to take care of some things around the house, and I do need to do it today because tomorrow we'll be going over to my parents' place since it is our birthday. Which, you know, that there goes the weekend. When we go, we're pretty much there all day. So yeah, so I'll finish on Wonder Woman. If anything, the next one, since I finished Peter Pan, the next focus piece is going to be the birthday piece or the birthday present that I mentioned in my last video. It's a Rick and Morty words pattern. There you go. It's a Rick and Morty pattern that I'm making for a friend. So if I do finish on Wonder Woman, I won't start a new space because on Monday I'll be starting Eternal Promise for my sister. So I would rather just go ahead and start, because I did anticipate starting it, so I have it in my bingo board. I think I have like 3 spaces for it. So I would rather just wait until Monday so I can go ahead and start that space. But I did, where is it? There we go. I did work on one other piece, and this is something that I'm working with Shell of Seashell Stitches. I think that's her FlossTube. She's also on Instagram, and I'm pretty sure, I think that's her handle. But this is one of the patterns that I bought last week. It's it's the pattern. I call it Flower Galaxy, but she doesn't really have. The products just have descriptions. It doesn't necessarily have a name. It's by 2x2 stitch art, and it's a fairly quick stitch. It only has 5 colors. Well, 6, I suppose, if you count the white. But I did finish one of the flowers. So this was, again, it's a very nice stitch. It's really it's nice to have these kinds of whips where you can make progress really quickly, as opposed to full coverage when you do 100 stitches and all you've done is like a teeny tiny square. But yeah, I think I'll go ahead and just either focus on the birthday piece or on something else, something small, so that I don't have to start an entirely new space. But yeah, so next week I'll be showing you at least 2 new starts, and I say at least because one of my friends, a fellow cross stitcher, her birthday's also this week, and I wanted to go ahead and start something that she's stitching on. She's currently stitching on the sampler called 3 Things. It's by it's one of the Moira Blackburn samplers, and I've never done a sampler before. I'm very picky and very particular about my samplers. I mean, not that I've never done one, but the ones that I've seen, there's always like at least one motif that I'm not necessarily too thrilled with, which is what puts me off from. Also just, you know, because Alma is impatient and doesn't want to open packaging envelopes properly. And usually there's no problem. I just snip off the top so I can just go ahead and pull out the whatever's in there. But oops, I may or may not have cut into the plastic Ziploc bag. I'm like, oh well, it wasn't, you know, at least it wasn't the sampler itself. But yeah, I am waiting on fabric for this. I ordered hand-dyed fabric called Cappuccino Froth. So it's, you know, it's very light, you know, it's like parchment type of color, which I think will do very nicely for this. So yeah, so if it gets here on time, I'll go ahead and start it this week. If not, I mean, I'll start it when I start it. You know, the point will be that we're both going to be stitching the same thing. But I did get some haul, some birthday haul this week. I was able to finally get another. This is the first sample that I have my eyes on, really, because again, I'm very particular about my about samplers. And this one, this is Consider the Lilies by Heartstring Sampler. This one, I just thought it was beautiful. I'm not too thrilled about the Adam and Eve in the center, but I thought I could just not stitch them. I'll stitch the tree, I'll stitch the apple tree, but yeah, the Adam and Eve themselves I just don't necessarily care for, or the angels over here. So I may just replace them. I mean, there's so many little motifs. Like, can we just appreciate all the pretty little flowers? I mean, and that's why I liked it. I'm like, oh yes, all the flowers, stitch all the flowers. So I may just grab something and just pluck it in there so that there's no space, there's no empty space there. Because I thought about leaving it empty, but then I'm like, well, I mean, there's literally no other place where you have empty spaces. So if I do take them out, I feel like I'll have to put something in there instead. But yeah, this was one, and then I also got this, which I thought was really funny. I mean, anyone who knows me knows that I can't do anything without drinking coffee first, so this just spoke to me. This is by Luminous Fiber Arts. And yeah, I thought it was cute, and it looks simple enough. There's a lot of white space, so it looks like it's going to be a fairly quick stitch. And then another thing that I got, and this is all with a gift card. I got a gift card for my birthday. I got Nevermore by Lila's Studio. I'm super excited about it. I'm very happy. I've always wanted to get this. It was on my wish list for forever. So when I got the gift card, I'm like, this is it. This is my chance. I don't know how I'll stitch it. And by that I mean I don't know if I'll go with the specialty threads or just stick to DMC. We'll see how things are. Because I do plan on starting this for Halloween. I want to make this my Halloween start this year. Because it's Edgar Allan Poe. I can't not start it on Halloween. And yeah, so that was pretty much what I was able to get with my gift card. I did get myself a present because I've never had a project bag besides the one that Michelle graciously gave to me. I got the Amazon ones, but this is by Vicky over at Stitch and Button, and I just thought it was precious. I thought it was super cute. And it's coming out as pink. It's like, I don't know, it's like it's a lavender type of color. So you're looking at it, I don't know, it looks more pink than it does purple. But the inside's purple. And see, it's already ready. I'm gonna go ahead and use this for the Eternal Promise for my sister's project. And it has a cute little charm, which I don't know if you can see. I don't know if it'll focus on it. It's a little purple flower to go along with it. But yeah, I was very happy with my bag. It's really good quality. So highly recommend, 10 out of 10 would recommend. So I got that, and then a friend of a friend was de-stashing, so I got this. This is I Am a Needlesmith by the Bay. And I don't know, I just thought it was cute, you know. I like these top motifs. I thought they were nice. But then just the girl herself and the spindle over here at the bottom, like, I just thought it was cute. And I was also able to get HL small, which Zakia over at Lady Wing Designs is working on this. That's where I saw the pattern, fell in love with it. And so she was offering, these were both like $7 each, which I thought was a steal. So yeah, so I'm definitely set. I'm definitely set for new patterns. I don't know, I mean, I do have some fabric coming in for the 3 Things sampler. I also ordered the same color, the cappuccino froth, and this is by Fiona, from Fiona's Craft Cottage, I think her Etsy shop is. I'll go ahead and post it. I'll link it below. But I'm gonna be using both, or the same color for both the 3 Things sampler, and I think I may have mentioned this. I don't know if I remember talking about this, but I'm participating in Lakeside Needlecraft's Time to Stitch sale. The first part came out in July 1st, so it's a 12-part series. The first part came out in July 1st. I had originally wanted to do it on an 18 count piece of white Aida that I had. I tried looking into her other designs, because as popular as she is, again, I'll come back to that later. So I tried researching her designs to see, you know, does she work with partial stitches? Does she, you know, like how does she design? You know, what kind of things does she do? And what I had come to the conclusion, or what I had concluded, I suppose is the right way of saying it, is that she doesn't do partial stitches. What she does do, however, is a lot of outlining, a lot of detailing, which was eventually my downfall. It wasn't until I got the first part that I realized that there was a lot of details, and a lot of those outlines and details had you splitting the stitches, splitting the fabric. So I decided, you know, and the second thing was, well, as I was stitching it, you know, I thought, I'm like, whatever, it's just going to be a very dainty clock. The detailing might be a pain, but I'll go ahead and power through it. But then I realized that I stitched it wrong. Instead of doing it landscape. Instead of doing it landscape as it was meant to be, I was doing a portrait, and I didn't notice until it was like 300 stitches in. So I had to undo everything. But then I'm like, okay, well, this is an opportunity. You know, this is an opportunity to reconsider and, you know, decide if I really wanted to stick to the 18 count or if I wanted to go with something different. So I've ordered, I'm still gonna stick with Aida, just because it was a little cheaper. But I did order a larger count. I ordered a 14 count, which, you know, sometimes with hand dyed fabrics they do shrink, so instead of a 14 count it might be a 16 count, but I think that's still gonna work just fine. But yeah, so again, it was a blessing in disguise, as much as I didn't appreciate having to frog all those stitches. I ended up it ended up being for the better. So I'll go ahead, and that fabric is on its way, so I'll go ahead and try to start it this week. So yeah, so I'll show you. There's gonna be quite a few new starts coming up soon. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah, lots of things. So the tangent that I was going to go into, that I decided not to go into it at that time, was I'm trying to branch out, you know, during this time of COVID. I've done a lot of reflecting, not just, you know, I mean, a lot of things, right? I've just been thinking of a lot of things, but one of the things that I was thinking about was just me as a stitcher. And I realized, you know, I've pretty much been sticking to full coverage. So I only work with a handful of designers. You know, paid, Tools and Crafts, the occasional Etsy seller that just happens to have full coverage pieces. Like, you know, there's not much. I mean, I do have variety. You know, I do have my realist kit, I have my dimensions kits and whatnot, but overall there wasn't that much variety to it. So, and you know, I started thinking this a few months ago. I said, okay, well, I'll go ahead and broaden my horizons. I'll look into other designers. I'll try out new designers. So I started making a list. Of, you know, if I were to pick one design from each designer, which one would I do? So that's how I came across Nevermore. That's how I came across Consider the Lilies. Those two were the ones that I had written down for those designers. By the one by the Bay was just kind of a surprise. It's still, you know, I know that there's a lot of people that do By the Bay designs or stitch on them, so I thought, okay, well, I mean, that still counts. So yeah, so just this is an attempt to, you know, try new things, try something different. I will be starting my first Mirabilia on Monday, which is very exciting. Well, it's a restart. I had originally attempted to start her back in March, but again, just things that you learn. I grabbed an 18 count piece of fabric because that's what I had available, and it wasn't until I was 500 stitches in that I realized that the beading on that piece was not going to work on 18 count. I mean, it could work, I could make it work, but it's gonna take some effort. So I scrapped that and ordered new fabric for it. And yeah, and I just kind of thought, okay, well, I'll just start this eventually. And then I just decided to make it a birthday start because why not? So yeah, so that's going to be another first for me, for reals this time. And I just ordered, you know, my first cut of 25 count easy guide fabric. So that's my first time working on that as well, which I'm using it for Soaring Free, and I'll be using it for Eternal Promise. So yeah, so lots of new things, trying out new things, and you know, I'm gonna keep going. Again, I've got plenty of new patterns to start, new things to explore with. So it'll be exciting, I think, and I'll be happy to share that journey. You'll be tagging along that journey with me. So I hope you are ready, because I'm not. I'm excited, but I mean, I still have to kit up. I have to figure out what to do with flosses and fabrics, and yeah, there's still some thinking to do before I get to start them all. But yeah, that is all I have to show you guys today. Thank you for hanging out with me. I'm sorry if it's a little bit longer. I just I just wanted to, it was mostly the Peter Pan piece. Like, I just really wanted to go through the details so that you could see properly what I've done. But thank you for spending some time with me this weekend, or whenever it is you watch this video. If you do watch this over the weekend, I hope that you had a very relaxing weekend. I hope that you have a very productive week, and that you always find time to do the thing that makes you happy. So until next time, happy stitching, guys. Bye.